To miss a minute is to miss a lot. Thanks so much. Thanks for calling. And let's face it, you've got friends on Facebook. And I'll tell you what, I kind of wanted to talk today about some of the things that everybody seems to be experiencing in their lives along with this pandemic. I'm Justine Thomas. Welcome to another version or another session of Let's Talk with Justine Thomas. Joe, it's so good to have you back on the show once again.
Hola, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm doing great. I got a question for you, and this is funny, and I don't know if this ever happens to you. Probably not, because men seem to be better at this than females. Have you ever met somebody directionally challenged?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Heck yeah.
So
Are you one of those directionally challenged people?
I am absolutely.
Tell me about it. This is a session here. Yeah. Share with me.
I can have a GPS, okay? I could never work for Amazon. I could never work for UPS because, and friends will laugh at me. They'll go, you don't know your left from your right. But when I follow my GPS, I still end up lost.
Okay.
I end up late. I end up even coming here. I'm like, Joe, my GPS says I should be here at such and such a certain time. But is it normal? Is it more apt for females to be that way over men? Because 9 times out of 10, if a female is lost, she'll stop and ask for directions. But a man, he keeps going. It's a pride thing. He just keeps going until he gets to where he needs to go. I have a different theory.
Okay. So if women will ask for direction, then basically train themselves that when they don't know enough information, they go gather it. Where men don't want to ask for direction, so you got to look at more things and gather intel from your environment. So guys get better at figuring it out, and ladies get more dependent on asking other people for help. Right?
And it's that way in life?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. All right. Point north. Let's see. Let's put you on the spot.
Oh, no. That way.
Good job.
Thank you.
Perfect.
That way.
That is north. That is
yes.
north.
Well, you got to start thinking, okay, where would be, if I were to, south would be down this way.
Right.
Okay. And then.
So what did you have to do to get oriented that way? Like, what did you picture in your head?
I had to think exactly where's my boundaries? Where am I at? So if I wanted to go, north, and I'm thinking the highway is that way, that's north. And then if I wanted to go south, down towards Pittsburgh, Columbiana, or whatever, that's that way. So that's my little mind.
So the challenge is frame of reference. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so as long as you have something that is, you know where it's oriented, you can align yourself with that thing that you know where it's oriented. MIT did a ton of studies on frame of reference and how the brain, what it does and how it's challenged and how it's, so if you get disoriented, let's just say you go into one of those developments that don't have a north-south type of pattern, they're just kind of loopy-doopies, you would have no way of knowing unless you looked up in the sky and saw where the sun was at, right? Well, the sun's not very accurate, but at least it comes up and where it sets, right? And then you can say, okay, well, if the sun is that way and I know it comes up in the east, then if I turn this way, that should be north. And you'll get way more accurate than not knowing at all. So
even following a compass, you probably can follow a compass in the woods. I couldn't do it.
Really?
Oh yeah. If I went on a trail ride, I would get lost. Thank God the horse knows its way back to the barn because I'm like, where are we going, Trigger? Where am I headed? Yeah, because I would so get lost.
But in today, you don't really have to have that. It's not. It's lessening its value to actually be able to find your way around without knowing where you're at. We go to Cook Forest a lot.
Love it. Beautiful.
Right, and that's one place that will really get you turned around super quick because you don't have you don't have any bearing on the sun. You don't know which way this trail's actually going, and so thankfully, the people who plotted the trails that don't make it so that you're in the middle of nowhere. If you get lost, you at least end up somewhere.
What about if do you do a lot of canoeing or boating or anything when you're up at Cook's Forest? Okay, it's windy up there.
Yeah.
How do you find your way? I mean, you know that you're probably going from one side to the other, but you can't use a GPS in water, really.
Well, there isn't a place up there that isn't like already regulated by somebody else. Smart people have already like put the signs up and can pick you up and whatever. Like if it was in the middle of nowhere, like you picked that place to launch your canoe and you picked that place to pull it back up again, I'd be in real trouble because I don't know how I'd do it.
Well, I know a friend of mine, she was actually on her horse. She was by herself and she was very far out. Okay, very far out. She had called 911. Okay, to see if they could ping her phone to find out where she's at. The first thing the 911 operator says to her is, well, what's in front of you? Trees.
please.
She says, I have no idea. Can't you ping they couldn't find her.
Wow.
For a couple hours, they couldn't find her. So, that's kind of scary. But how did we do it back in the olden days? How did people find their way?
Well, you had to. There was more of a pressure that if you didn't, you would die. So, before you left, you'd make sure that you knew where you were headed,
where you were going.
Like even when I first started driving, I mean, when you wanted to go on a long trip, it was a triptych, right?
Yes.
You didn't have a GPS. So you sat in front of a dude who knew all of the roads, right? And he put little stamps down there and all you had to do was follow the highlighted path.
Or you better hope that whoever was riding with you could read a map and not upside down.
I had a lot of those friends, the upside down friends. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, well, I think the day and age of us relying on our cell phones, and if the battery goes dead, we're dying.
Screwed.
It's like, where is my charger? Where do I go? What do I do? Then you try to stop off at a store and try to get a plug that's working. I mean, we have relied so much on our smartphones and our cars for that matter.
Yeah, for sure.
For the GPSs in the car. So I just wondered if there was anybody out there that is, challenged as much as I am directionally. But you got to wonder, is your whole life like that too, though?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's time constraints, time structures, and do you ever know I could get up at 6 o'clock in the morning this morning. You're an early bird. Yeah. You're 4:30.
Yep.
And I will always somehow end up late no matter where I'm going. How do you do that? How do you stop that? Because what is it, 67 days or it's 70 days to break a habit? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's about right. Sounds about right.
So now is the time to start getting yourself geared up for your New Year's resolutions, right?
Yeah, I believe in that internal clock, and we're in a society that changes times twice a year and jacks everybody up for a period of time. I'll try to stay super close to what I did yesterday, even when the times change. Like I've been getting up at, 4:30 after daylight savings time, then 5:30 after, and then it's all the same to me. You know what I mean? It doesn't adjust my schedule adjusts accordingly.
Right. This time around, I didn't have a problem with it, but then I didn't set the clocks back. I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's really 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock. So in your mind, you're already pre-setting it. Maybe that could be why I'm off. Or I'm just off, period. You never know, but it's funny that, and it seems like it's habitual because, if your family runs that way, 9 times out of 10, you're going to run that way. Now you're 10 minutes, 15 minutes early, no matter where you go.
Exactly.
And I have a friend who, because she was in the military, they taught her time that if you're 10 minutes early, you're actually 10 minutes late.
Yeah. Well, I live in a world where some of my meetings are like live or die kind of meetings. And there's opportunities that I would not get if I didn't show up. So I have this internal risk meter that goes around.
Right.
And being late for something risks that something stops happening or I don't have access to something and I won't take that chance versus the other way. Like what's the worst if you get there 10 minutes early? What's the worst that could possibly happen? Really low on the risk meter. So.
Now, are you a superstitious person?
Not really, no.
No?
Nope.
Like a 13 or...
No.
That doesn't bother you at all?
I think a lot of those superstitions, you can program yourself. You can create your own superstitions.
Sure.
You can put yourself in that state of mind. So whenever there's something that like, hey, there's a broken mirror, like I'll walk up to the mirror and crack it myself, right? Because I don't believe in it. And that's my faith that I don't believe in it.
Okay. And you don't believe in the 7 years bad luck then?
I don't.
No? Because you make your own destiny.
Yeah. For sure.
Now, if somebody were to, like we have talked about so many interesting things, and if you have not seen some of those shows, you need to go back and watch them to get to this point. But we have talked about so many things about putting your life, like the laws of attraction and what you want to get out of life and what you put out, you get in and watch what you put out into the universe because it comes back, tenfold. So going into the year 2021, we can't wait till this year ends. I've never seen, and this is not an election show, but I've never seen an election take this long to count votes. Have you?
Nope, I'm not.
I mean, seriously, we usually knew who our president was when we went to bed that night after the vote. So just clearing all of it just seems like it's such a negative year. It really does. And going into 2021, hoping and praying that this is going to be everybody's year where we're getting back on track, where the economy is going to get back on track, where people are going to get back on track. Because have you noticed going into different places, And we've talked about this before, but I think it's really starting to get worse. I thought it would get better, but people's attitudes, people's views, people are tired, people are nasty, people are cranky. It's not getting better.
Right.
Even to see some of the comments where the electoral votes were coming in and where some of our local news would break in and say, okay, here's, a breaking news. So-and-so is at this percentage, so-and-so is at this percentage. To see the comments that people are writing underneath is unheard of. I mean, the lack of disrespect for everybody, not even the two people that are running for presidency, but it's the people that are commenting underneath. Now they're jumping on them because they don't like what the comment that they wrote. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah. And that when you see this pendulum swing, like a person sitting back watching this knows that, unity is in really short supply right now.
Mm-hmm.
So its value goes up and then the demand for it goes up in following. And then so the higher that it's almost like the higher it swings by for this division that, the same distance in the future, you're going to have that same energy in unity. So I'm setting myself up to bring people together because even though it's not in demand right now, I'm getting my arsenal built that, the demand's coming.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
for sure.
You are one you like to plan, and you're so much like me. In my life, I'm structured. I have to have plan A,
right?
Plan B, plan C. And then if A, B, and C, then there's D.
Yep.
D is like the last resort. People tell me you can't live a life like that.
Oh, yes, you can.
That's what I say.
Absolutely.
You have to have, it's like a yin and a yang or a balance. And if that gets out of sync, then you've got to go to C and D. But I've been told by so many people, just live, you got to live for the moment.
Those are the same people that when, some crisis happens and then you pull out of your super PAC exactly what you needed. You're like, how do they do that? Is that like a superpower? How are you always prepared? Never prepared because always living in the moment, always prepared. Like I have 9 things yesterday that I planned for that I didn't need. And you'll never see those things. You'll only see it like when that thing that I did need was in my back pocket because I thought of this hypothetical way in advance. We're time travelers is all we are. You and I.
I get it. And I think going back in time, and like we've talked about this even at Deja Vu, where you've played it, maybe you've played this role in your mind many times and you've played how it's going to finish out. It may end that way. It may not end that way, but at least you are protected. You're ready to go.
You've rehearsed it. I mean, it's just like any theater performance, right? You go up on stage and you do it 1,000 times and the final performance isn't exactly the way that you rehearsed it, but you went in so many different hypotheticals. What if you sneeze? What if you need to catch your breath? And you've rehearsed it before there's anybody watching. So by the time you present, it almost looks polished.
Not only that, I mean, have you ever, and this may be a little bit different because you're a businessman, have your own businesses, but you've been on interviews before. Have you ever rehearsed an interview in your mind and thought this did not
Absolutely.
go
All the
way
time.
I thought?
All the time. Yeah, there's some times where I thought they were going to talk about X and then they just like left, curveball me and we're talking about something completely, and I'm cool with it. Like I'll always be dynamic enough to be able to answer questions as long as I know it's in my wheelhouse. But yeah, there's been some abrupt conversations
with people. Yeah. Or have you ever had an interview that you brought somebody in, they sounded really good on the phone and you're like, wow.
Yes.
Not exactly what you thought.
Yep. That happens a lot.
Okay. So I'm not as strange as I thought I was. It's what that basically boils down to. So yeah, it's
but I like strange. So yes, you're uniquely and strangely whatever. So I like it.
Yeah, strange is good.
Yeah.
There's never a dull moment in our lives. Something's always, and you're a lot like me where our minds do not shut down. It's like we are constantly thinking. And it probably does the same with a marketing person, whoever does marketing or promotions or this or that, or, thinking of new businesses or, ways of making money or keeping people employed, but I think people that don't shut down, I don't even think they get a lot of sleep either. I know you don't. You get 4 hours, and how you work on 4 hours sleep is beyond me.
So let me give you my secret.
Okay.
So I study the conscious and subconscious mind.
Yes.
Okay. The conscious mind is where you like think through things. Your imagination is there and all your big plans are there, and it takes all of your mental energy in your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is like a caveman, right? It doesn't know many words. It just like heartbeat, 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 breathe, 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 right? And so if you can boil down complicated things down to caveman talk, you can have your subconscious brain deal with these kind of things. So if you kept your morning routine sophisticated, your subconscious is never going to be able to assist you, and you're going to be using your conscious brain to put your days together. But if you can say, I'm going to wake at a certain time and I'm going to do the same thing over and over and over again, you can throw that routine into your subconscious. Do you ever start driving somewhere and you check out and then you start driving to a place that you weren't intending to?
Yes.
That was your subconscious, that you went into subconscious mode where you were elsewhere, and your subconscious was like, I got this. I've done this a million times, and it just goes. And it's happened usually on a Saturday where I'll start driving to work and I'm like, whoa, hold up.
Right.
You know, but, and so the secret is to simplify some of the stuff that you got complicated in your brain. See if you can make it super simple so you can offload. The capacity of conscious routines is about 30 concurrent. Right. So you can only think about 30 things at one time.
That's a lot.
Before you're overwhelmed.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The subconscious can do like 30,000 routines. Right. So that, you know, I might think a whole lot less than you, but I'm able to do more than you because I'm doing tons and tons and tons of simple things rather than tons and tons of sophisticated things.
Right. We played a memory game, and I couldn't believe how you were able to simplify remembering things.
Yes.
We should probably do an exercise. Yeah,
okay.
Because I think if people could learn some of these simpler things, their lives could probably be a lot simpler as well. It's not so stressed out, and you don't have to worry about what was I going into that room for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's try.
Okay.
This,
So
Joe.
it's called a memory castle.
Right.
And you basically create a home, just like you would your house. Like in your house, in your mind, you can go to your house right now and you can open your front door and you can walk into the first room and you can actually see things as they are in your house.
Right.
Right. How you know this is because you've walked through that house a million times, right? You know the colors and whatnot. So in a memory castle, you're constructing an abstract version of that, where you're walking in and, you know, room number 1. And, you know, I like to follow natural patterns in my head. So if I know the rainbow, then all of my patterns are going to go, you know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue. So the first room's always going to be red, because if I'm walking into the first room, I want it to follow the context of being in order. So then I start putting things in my room. Like it's an empty room right now, but if I wanted to remember something, usually when you go in your house, the first thing you do is find a place for your keys, right? That's what you do. So now you're going to tag something. Is when you do your keys, you can put something next to your keys. And when you go up and try to remember it, you're going and saying, I'm going to place this in the red room, right? And I'm going to set it next to my keys. Well, when you backtrack, you don't have the thing you're trying to remember is going to be hard, but you're going to remember red room, you're going to remember keys, and then you'll get to the thing that's sitting next to it because you put it in your brain in your memory castle. And you can get extremely sophisticated. This is the exercise that we did, so let's share it with them. So credit card numbers are cool because everybody has credit cards. They're 16-digit numbers. Nobody knows what their credit cards numbers are, but we could use our memory castle to break down the digits of our credit card and put them in different places and rooms in our memory castle and recall the credit card number properly in order.
Okay? We did that. I remember you said, well, think of rooms in your house. And I did that. And then it was like the living room, bedroom, bathroom, bedroom. And you're like, okay, so we're going to put this number in this room, this number in that. You could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you take let's just say your first 2 digits of your credit card is 12. Right. So now you're going to use the routines in your brain to be able to then translate a number down to an association. So when my son and I drive around, we try to create new associations. So it's like, hey, when I say green, what's the first thing that pops into your brain? And he's like, frog. Or when I think of the number 12, what do I think? Ryan Newman, NASCAR driver. And so I'm collecting these really simple associations so that when I start to try to remember something, like if there's an address, I can more easily remember, Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch than I can, 1238. Right. True. So if their address is 1238, I can take your street address and I can boil it down to a couple of segmented posts, convert it to somebody that's already in my memory castle, and just say, oh, that's in the first room. I know exactly where that is when I go to find it, and I can retrace my steps to go back through the memory castle to grab that stuff. What about when you've got a shopping list going on and you're like, oh, I need to get cream, or you wouldn't, but coffee, or I need to get eggs, milk, bread. Do you put those in your memory castle? You have to create an association first. So if you have an association for coffee, it's super easy. Like, okay, first thing that pops into my head when I have to go buy coffee, and see where your brain travels. If your brain travels to, third day, right?
Right.
Then you can create an image in your head and put something like, I would think of that package because I see that package every day when I come in the door.
Right.
I would take third day and I'd put it in the room. And then I would just, as I'm doing my shopping list. Now I couple this because not only do I want to remember the shopping list, I sort of want it to be in an order of me walking around the grocery store. So if you go to your grocery store and not try to buy anything, but just map out in your brain where everything is. Like, you know, where the first segment is and the second segment and third segment and so on. So I can do both. I can do the association and I can put it in proper order. So I could, as I'm walking through my memory castle, those things will appear in the order that they will be on the shelves, and then everything just makes sense.
Wow. I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people waste time backtracking, going back and forth. Oh, I need to get the eggs. Oh, I need to go get this. Oh, I need to go get that.
That drives a person like me crazy.
Insane.
Crazy.
So what do you character yourself as? What do you think is because your mind is set in patterns. You're pretty much a pattern person.
I am.
So what do they call that type of person?
I would say like Rain Man, right? That's me, right?
Rain Man, really?
I'm Dustin Hoffman, and you know, now a lot of people are born with that ability, right? And it works against them. Like, this is something that I wasn't born with. This is something that I had to develop. My memory was not great at all.
So everybody can do this.
Anybody,
no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, the better your memory is, the less likely you're going to try to do this, because you're just going to use your conscious brain to remember everything, and it's going to work out pretty well. You're going to max out, but you don't care because it's halfway decent. Mine was like, hey, my name is Bob. Hey, do you remember my name? I have no idea, right? Unless I put it through some kind of crazy machine in order to remember it.
How long did that take you?
Lots of years.
Did it really?
Yeah.
So this just isn't something that you can do overnight.
No.
Because I know, you know, I'm one of those people that it's like, oh, what was I thinking? What was I doing? Why did I go in? And many people are like, I went into this room, but I forgot why I went in here. Do you ever do that?
No, I don't.
Ever?
Never. Never.
Wow. Wow.
I am so methodical, but remember, every function in my life is a translation down from something complicated to simple. So if you ever see me, all I'm doing is either translating up or translating down. I'm either writing the code down or decrypting the code. And there's not anything else. I mean, there's not a movement where I'm like, I'm going to randomly wander into this room, right? It's a very straight
methodical reason why I went in there. Huh. Now, what about when you're watching TV? Can you concentrate on what you're watching, or do you find that you drift off and you start thinking about other things and you're like, oh, wow, that show is over? So
what's nice about theater and movies and music is they stick in your brain really easy. And since I'm a data collector, I'm probably not paying attention to the script of the show or the movie. I'm not really, I couldn't tell you what just happened, but I'm collecting memory points, something that was, you know, big enough for my brain to latch onto, and then using those as future, you know, programming or seeds for memories. Like, there are, you know, scenes in movies where you get totally excited and it would stand out. I can use that because I can use it as a translative down the road. The toughest part, if you go and do your credit card and you come across a couple of numbers that don't translate to anything. If I was like, hey, Ryan, what's the first thing that pops into your head when I say red? If nothing comes up, then you got to work on collecting some stuff that then does correct that, you know, doesn't give you that translation.
Wow.
And that's all I'm doing is collecting translations over and over and over again.
So even everything that you're watching is a teaching tool for you.
I'm a data collector. Like, it's nobody's business.
So you don't really enjoy something.
I do. I enjoy. Oh, yes. But well, your enjoyments change. It's almost like when you do what I do on the nutrition side, right? I don't eat sweet things. Now you can say from your perspective, well, then I'm not enjoying my food. I totally enjoy my food because I get like laser accurate focus when I do my deal. I just like that better than the euphoria of glucose. You know, it's just a different thing. That's all.
Right. That's interesting. It's interesting to see how your mind works sometimes, because we are a lot alike. We can sit here and talk for hours on different things, and we are a lot alike. But there is some things where we're, you know, we pull apart. And I like to gather information on people because it makes me wonder. I like to find out what makes people tick. I like to find out what is their, you know, their, not so much the pressure point. That's not what I'm thinking, but I where you come together. Yep. And you collect data and it clicks.
Right.
And I love when I'm looking at something and it's been a puzzle or it's been, you know, a word problem or something. And then all of a sudden you get this feeling in your mind. And I don't know if you feel it or not, but it just clicks and you're like, do you ever get that?
Okay. I'm considering like there are so many superpowers that we have spread over people and they don't know how to use them. So we'll use Elon Musk. He's one of my heroes. He and I are a lot alike in our methods of thinking. Now he has a photographic memory. I do not have a photographic memory. Do you have a photographic memory?
No, my sister does.
So I have to create a photographic memory by using my memory castle. He can look at a thing, right? Not even really pay attention to the details, walk away, bring that thing that he saw up and recall it in intricate detail without having to memorize the characters or the pictures or anything like that.
Wow.
If you had that superpower, you're like, okay, well, I can do this. What should I do with it? Right? Should I sit around and you have to read it and I have to memorize it and he can just see it? Why would he sit around and do the same thing that you do? He can use the same time that he would have to be reading it to start applying it. So he just travels through time a little bit faster than we do because he can do what we do, takes us energy.
Right.
He has no energy expensed in it.
How do you get like that? How do you develop that skill? How do you develop that talent?
You're going to have, okay, so he has photographic memory. You have something.
Okay.
Right? You have a superpower that you might not have discovered, but you can do an analog. Once you know that it requires more energy to do that, that's not your natural deal. That's a developed skill. It's a developed superpower. But I think what happens is there's a lot of people who wander up to their superpower and they do not know what to do with it. They don't know what to do because it's either not in its perfect form, or they misunderstand it, or they think it's maybe a handicap, or you know what I mean, something like that. And so I think, you know, with regular people, conforming to culture and society keeps you from utilizing your superpower.
I think you're right about the people they don't even know how to develop it.
Yep.
And it should be coming second nature to them. And it's like, hey, I'm here.
Heck yeah. All the time. And you probably get annoyed with your own superpower.
You don't know, and you don't know how to develop it either. And you don't know what to use it for.
Yep.
How do you decide, okay, this is a talent. This is what unless it's something that you're good at. And then that's just a skill. That's not really a superpower, right?
That's right.
There's a difference between a talent, a skill, and a super talent.
Yeah.
Or super talent. So decipher. How do you decipher how you do that?
Okay, so in Rain Man, since I have invoked it, you take the toothpicks and you just put them on the floor, and he accurately counted how many toothpicks. Right. Now, what we did was it felt like a superpower because in order for us to know how many toothpicks were there, we'd have to go one. And there wasn't enough time for him to have come up with the answer using the same skill set that we do. So if you do something, if you're able to do something with no friction, took no effort, it just like occurred to you, and then you look around and it didn't occur to anybody else, well, you might be staring down at whatever your superpower is. And it's tough to say like what you do with it because it depends on what area it's from. But what you'll have is you'll gravitate towards interests that are connected with wherever your superpower is there. And you can figure out through context clues whether or not, you know, where it leads you through. Like you ever, you know, like go to the store at 6 o'clock. Sometimes you're annoyed with having to get out of your house and put your shoes on and get in your car, drive and get milk or something like that.
Yes.
But there is some things that you'll forget to put shoes on as you bust through the house, get in your car and drive to. It's the same actions, right? You're not annoyed with that one. So it should start to occur to you with whatever was at the finish line inspired you in a completely different way to get out, get in your car and go somewhere.
See, I've never forgotten to put my shoes on. I've never forgotten
All right,
something.
maybe an exaggeration.
Well, no, but see, that's the thing. I get annoyed it's like, oh, I'm home. I don't feel like going anywhere. I don't feel like doing anything. So you don't. And then I'm done for the rest of the night. So is that good or is that bad?
Well, it's just it's an exaggerated like feeling, right? It might not be an extroverted attempt, but there'll be an analog to that in wherever it is. You know what I mean? Like you're willing to do something more than you normally would do because the interest is pushing you in that direction.
I gotcha. Okay. Because I think sometimes people are just so overwhelmed by the end of their day, they go home and they get their comfort zone, and then they don't want to move, and they don't.
That's that culture thing. You assimilate in a culture, you do the same thing that everybody else is doing, and you get a watered down, mediocre outcome.
Yes. So you've got to retrain your brain to okay, let's get up, let's go for a walk, let's go do this.
Eccentric. Start being eccentric.
Being eccentric. I am so not eccentric. I am the most eccentric person you've ever met in your life. Yeah, but it's something we just have to keep pushing ourselves. Again, this is like last week's show. We're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone or pushing yourself outside of the box and making you do something that you probably wouldn't normally do.
Mm-mm.
You know, I don't know. Something to be said for that.
I like your topics. I
can see your eyes light
Yeah.
up. He's like, yes.
It's like somebody put it on the tee just for me.
I know, right? Well, I think if you could put yourself in somebody else's shoes, okay, and then you start to ask questions, and then they relate to what you're asking, it's a teaching session
For sure.
And you're like, yes, I'm not the only one who feels that way, or okay, so I'm not so strange because I've felt that too, or I thought this too, or it's just. It's somebody's MO, but if somebody can share the same MO, it makes it all that much better. That's why it's like, I ask you 52,000 questions because it seems like, hey, Joe, do you know about that? Yeah, I know about this, or yeah, I know about that. So I'm
a data collector. So, I think it started off when I was a kid that I was addicted to Discovery Channel. And I don't really care if I was about animals or civilizations or history. It didn't really matter. I was just eating it up to know what happened and why and trying to construct things in my brain. And I just got addicted to that feeling.
So how were you in school?
Terrible.
You just didn't care. You were like,
I didn't learn the way that everybody else did. Like if I couldn't throw a fact at me and do memorization. Remember, my memory was terrible. So by the time, like if you told me to memorize that paragraph, like I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with it. And by the time you asked me what I read, I'm like, I have no clue. I don't care.
That's how I was in school too.
Yep.
Things didn't come real easy to me in school, but get me outside those doors and I don't want to say street smart because there is book smart, there's street smart,
right.
There's life smart.
Think about how many people right now feel stupid because they couldn't conform to those societal, conformities and stuff like that. I mean, I felt dumb going through school. I really did. Until I was able to get out of school and learn on my own, in my own way. I felt stupid, inadequate. I mean, it was terrible.
And I think a lot of people, when they have you take like aptitude tests and they try to find out where you're at, or ACT tests or this or that, not everybody learns the same way, the same time, the same amount. So I think here we go with these school teachers and things like that, because I don't want to put myself on a hot seat, but I think people learn at different ratios in different ways. And sometimes people are nervous to take tests. People freeze up taking tests. So could you imagine taking an ACT test and find out what your scores are? And you're like, I could do so much better. I mean, I remember in school, kids constantly saying, oh, I got the ACT test this week and I have to take, and I'm so nervous about that. But whether you're prepared for them or not, you're learning at a different ratio than maybe what Sam or Jim or John are learning. I mean, what do you think?
So here was my brain. And this is why, like, I would just check out of normal stuff. So you give them the bubble tests, right? And then, so I would probably answer a couple of them that I knew, right? That I knew were accurate. And then I would see, like, if they added up to A, B, or C, and if there were a pattern where the person who put the test together would pick C more often, or pick A more often, or pick B more often, to see what was in the mind of the test creator more so than the stuff that was on the page. And I'll see if I could mimic any of those things, where if they were 70% more likely to put C, so I'd answer more C's when I didn't know of something. So I really wasn't learning anything, or it wasn't really an aptitude. I was trying to hack a system by learning about its tendencies.
Does it drive you crazy when somebody says, oh, you analyze too much? I'm an analytical person. I analyze everything.
I think people don't say that to me. They might say it when I'm not around, but they don't say it directly to me. And I think a lot of people benefit from me analyzing stuff. There's actually, when you're around me, and I tell this, to my employees and even my wife, that you got to put me in a mode, right? If we go to the grocery store, it's going to happen faster, more accurately, and it's going to cost less, right? But there's going to be some rules to it. If you don't want to be in that mode and you want to, like, wander around the store and do stuff, I can do that too. I'm just not going to be part of that deal, right? And
I'll
so
be there, but not really.
did some tests. Like we would go to take the employees to football games, right? Browns games and NBA games and stuff like that. And so we do tailgating before we went out there. But I would put together like a team strategy and have them do the grocery shopping and see if they could formulate methods to go through the grocery shopping. And I would sort of like learn more about my employees and how they work together and bought things and whatever. And I am telling you, I got to learn more insights about how weird people's brains function. Like sometimes, like when I'm talking to you, I feel like you get it, right?
I do. Mm-hmm.
But if I'm talking to a regular person, I could share.
Not regular.
Not. Some of the stuff that I would say would be like, phew, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that was my way of kind of coming back and looking at it from the perspective of someone who doesn't challenge things the way that I do. And it's not that I'm smart or they're smart. It's a totally different language that's being spoken.
Mm-hmm. I think, and we just did this, let's see, 2 weeks ago, went into an escape room over at on Logan's Way. It was a wine, it was a nice winery and a wine event. And they had this, and it was my friend and her husband and myself. And we were given clues as to find the stocks that were in the room and the bonds. And then you had to find out an escape way out besides the front door that they gave you. So you had to move cushions around, and you had to, there was this thing on the wall that you had to punch in a code, and then something else, you'd hear something pop in the room. And you're like, oh, what just popped? And find out what just popped to get to the next clue. And the gentleman that was watching us on a camera said, you guys really work together as a team. He said, I didn't have to come in and nobody just sat there going, dur, 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 dur. I mean, we all worked. Yep. And I think that when businesses take employees out and they do an exercise like that, you get to see the strong ones from the weak ones, right? And who works well with others and who doesn't, who follows the directions or who comes up with different ideas and different clues. And I think it's a great exercise, and I enjoy escape rooms like that. Some people may not do that, but I do. I enjoy going out and putting my mind, to the test, thinking, okay, if I was this, or if this was this, and if I moved this, and if I'm looking for clues, I mean, anything in a book, like if you saw a G3 or an F7, you had to put those clues together to find out where your next clue was.
And every escape room sort of has the puzzle maker is different. So if you follow like one company, their puzzles are very, similar in how they're constructed. Because remember, I'm the guy looking at the formula. I don't really care about the details. So once I figure out that company's escape room, the rest of it's just different nouns and verbs. It's always the same structure. So I have to go, like we went to Pittsburgh and Cleveland and here in Boardman, and I got samplings from lots of different minds going into creating those obstacles.
And it does take a very creative mind to put that together. Now, did you learn anything from the exercise? Or again, were you more interested in the way that the company's mindset was?
I spend the first maybe half hour cracking the code on how they put together, like are they trying to make it challenging so you fail? Are they making it challenging because they want you to see your creativity? Are they putting challenging where this is a work together type of thing? And there's like a different, once you figure out which one they're doing, they're like, okay, well, they want this one to be a cooperative, right? Because one person's going to find one part of the clue and another person's going to find another part. And then it's about like coming to the center table and seeing what everybody has regularly. And there's other ones where one person could solve the whole room. It doesn't require a second person and whatever. So once I figure that out, then it's just check the boxes and solve the room. And
did you do it did you really under the time frame?
Everyone. If you ever want to solve an escape room, come with me. I mean, it's like second nature.
Oh, we're going to have to do that because
there was only one that we lost. Okay. And this was a big one down in Pittsburgh. And it was like multiple 5 or 6 rooms. And our group got coupled with another group that we did not know. And some lady took one of the props that had the clue and put it in her pocket. So there was missing information. So we got to the end saying we couldn't go any further because of this, whatever. And then she's like, oh, I had this, and wanted to punch her in her face. But.
I think it's a great memory and a great exercise for people and people are like escape room. A lot of them don't even know what that is. They're thinking, oh my God, are you pinned up in a room and you've got to try to escape this room? Yes and no. It's more of a mind where you're putting clues together. It's nothing scary at all. No. Actually, it's a lot of fun.
It is too.
And for you to push yourself to the limit and try to remember the different clues that are coming up, even families can go. Like I think they take up to 6 people per room. And it is a lot of fun. We're going to have to do an escape room one of these days, or even do one on camera. Yeah. That would be fun as well to do an escape room.
See me in my habitat, right?
I would love to see how you
I would
work.
ruin it for you. I would totally ruin it for you, though.
Really?
It wouldn't be fun anymore because it would just be a methodical, you know, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think we could try doing it.
Okay, I'm game. Anytime you want.
I think that would be a lot of. Did you go to the one in Niles yet?
No, I did not.
There's one that there's a couple rooms in Niles. There's a Victorian room and there's another room. So
Sweet, I'm gonna have to do
try that one out
Yeah.
too. It's right across from the Eastwood Mall.
Sweet.
So here I am giving them plugs. But yeah, no, Joe, like I said, every time that I have you on the show, I learn so much from you, and it's a pleasure to actually deal with your mind and deal with your brain a little bit and see where you're at, as opposed to some of the people out there that aren't methodical. You know what I mean? They go through life happy-go-lucky, and sometimes I wish I could be like that. You know what I mean? But I'm constantly thinking, and that's why people say you analyze too much. Well, that's how we're all made up, I guess.
Back off! Quit picking on Justine.
Yeah, stop. But no, I've always been brought up that you need to have a game plan. You need to have something instead of just going through your merry little way and getting going through life this way or that way. I've always had to have A, B, C, or D. Yeah, so
for sure.
Yeah. So it's been fun. I've had a great show with you today.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. I mean, you light up with stuff that I think is maybe not normal, and you're like, yes, I've been there. I've done that. Okay. This is good.
You could just call me weird.
No, I didn't. But it's nice to know that people hang in your tribe that way. It really is. So, again, thanks for coming on board. Absolutely. And we'll see what else we can get into, what type of trouble we can get into. And I really do want to do that escape room. Okay, I think that is going to be a lot of fun. So any questions that anybody may have on escape rooms, you can always private message us. Joe has a list, I'm sure, that people have gone, or they've gone to, and he knows where you can find these different rooms at. I'm going to pick his brain afterwards. So, but thanks again. And if you miss a minute, you miss a lot. Thanks for joining in with Let's Talk with Justine Thomas. See you on Thursday. Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.